Hello everyone. I wanted to do two videos for the second week. The first video is going to be this one, and it's going to give more of an introduction as to what we're doing and the type of analysis we're going to do, and just some information I wanted to share on geographic information systems, so that way it wasn't, again, just here's your book and do some GIS stuff and go about your business when the class is done. Now I wanted to share some things with you and maybe explain more what our goals are in terms of education and theory. We're not going to do a lot of that. This may actually be all of it here, but I wanted to set the stage for what geographic information systems can do and what the overall goal for our class is. The second video, which I'll work on later this week, will be a supplement to your exercise. And the first exercise for week 2 will be, it'll set the precedence for how we're going to do all of the assignments and how you're going to get your grades. Speaking of grades, don't worry about the syllabus quiz. If some of those, after reading the questions, if they seem kind of tricky or if they were too silly and you just didn't care, the 8 points that it's worth is not going to affect your grade a lot at all. The assignments and the final project are going to be worth a whole lot more, so don't fret if you miss a couple on the syllabus quiz. But as for the real introduction to geographic information systems, I don't like to use PowerPoint a lot, but I figured this would be a good way to get some of the points across. But I want to start with saying that what we're really going to be doing, and what I do, and I think that what a lot of people do in their profession when they use GIS, is actually spatial analysis. And spatial analysis is the process in which you use geographic information systems to accomplish a goal. So really what I want to teach you guys is how to use Esri software, because it plays into how you can use a lot of other people's software. Esri is not the Bible, the gospel truth for all geographic information system software. There's a company called Carlson where I use that at the mine that I work at, and they work with AutoCAD, which has a mapping and geographic information system program. GE has one that they use for utility companies, and there are a lot of people that are developing web-based geographic information systems. So I wanted to do this video to help us get started on the right foot and differentiate what a geographic information system can do from what a lot of people just assume that it is. It starts basically with representing points, lines, places on physical places on the globe, and you can do that. Anything can be put into vector data, and that's what I've got shown here. Everything can be represented as a point, line, or a polygon. So property tracks, where you're standing, if you ever use your phone for GPS coordinates, roads, or just lines, everything, even in 3D, can be represented in some way on a map. A lot of people do coverages, and that's the other type of data. If you have topography or varying temperatures across areas, you can choose to represent this data as raster data. And that goes, the book talks about it a little bit, and you're free to do research if you want to, but this is to kind of show that we're not really looking at just making maps. It's not really just about the end product so much as it is how you get to the end product, which is the data. Data drives GIS and spatial analysis, and it can range all across the board. It doesn't just have to be, you don't have to be a geographer, you don't have to be making maps for Google. You can use this for pretty much anything. And with the right data, like your book says, you can see anything. And I think that's what's so great about geographic information systems, is you can communicate your projects or your point if you're trying to give presentations or you're trying to prove something. If you're trying to communicate something that's really like for, if you're giving a presentation to the city council, or if you're doing something for a research board if you get later in college, or your boss, or if you really need to organize, like I said, the utility, I gave that as an example. Vectron and KU use these systems to keep track of all their utilities, where there's failures, where they're putting in new poles, so on and so forth. So again, this is, I know I sound like a broken record, but geographic information systems can just can be applied to pretty much anything where you can tie data to a physical point on the Earth. So I want to show this, and again, I apologize for the quality of these videos if they're garbage, but you can Google this, and it's the Soho cholera outbreak. It was in the 1850s in London, I believe, and I don't know if this is the earliest example of a geographic information system being used, but it is the one that is more famous for introductory students. And when you're learning about geographic information systems, it's typically the example that's cited first. And what happened was this guy named Snow, there was this cholera outbreak, and again, you can research on this on your own if you want to get into it a little deeper. But they couldn't figure out why so many people were getting sick, and they had all this information about, well, the so and so from this part of the city is sick, but these other people are not getting sick, and we don't understand it. So the Snow guy mapped out the area. He had the neighborhood, I think it was a ward, and he kind of pinpointed where all these people were being sick, and he tried to use logic and reason. He's like, well, there's got to be a common feature for these people being sick and the people on the other end of town not being sick. And he ended up finding that the cholera outbreaks were concentrating around the local water fountains, the spigots that people were getting the water that they took to their homes, and it was infected with, or contaminated. So these people were drinking contaminated water, and they use this map to kind of pinpoint, like, okay, well, we know these spigots are contaminated, we need to close them off and get rid of them or do something about it. And that's a perfect example of using a geographic information system, and one of the earliest. And they didn't have computers, didn't have anything fancy, and they still managed to take data and information they had, but put it on a map so people could visualize it and understand it a lot easier than trying to write a 100-page report about it or have a roundtable discussion. People tend, even in my experience today, to react much quicker to something that they can see and put their finger on, as opposed to having to read through it and drone on about something that you can't visualize. More modern examples, kind of sticking with the healthcare theme, and this is just something really simple and generic that I pulled off the internet, but this is going to be something more along the lines of what we're doing, just something really simple. I think these are counties in Texas around Houston, parts of the metropolitan statistical area, and they're just showing differences in hospitals. The red dots are ones where the hospitals together provide 70% of Medicaid and uncompensated care, and the black dots are just other hospitals. So, if you were interested in this data, or you had to use it in the healthcare profession, you could take it, do spatial analysis on it, but use a geographic information system to make a physical, tangible map that you could present to someone and sum up your findings. What I do, I'm a coal miner and I'm a technician, but you can use geographic information systems to keep track of, this is a longwall mine, for example, and you can keep track of timing, how much coal you've mined. You can tie it to surface data, so that way when you mine, you know who to pay correctly. You can keep safety data and locate where the miners are, where accidents are, and print maps for planning, engineering, and all sorts of things. And it doesn't have to just be industry. Geographic information systems, this might be kind of a lame example, but if anybody plays video games, when you play a game, all the stuff that goes into it is just data. And this is a screenshot from Battlefield 4, and they take all the data from the people playing this game, and you can look at it in a geographic sense and see, well, who's the best at using this weapon, or who plays the most, and who's won the most, which game type do people prefer. And even video game companies, marketing companies, advertising companies, they all use this type of information, but when you put it in a format that people can understand and kind of grasp better, they tend to react quicker and appreciate it more and understand it a lot better than if you had just given them a report or something along those lines. So that's kind of the whole reason for this video is I want you guys to start the class, before we get into the technical part of it, thinking that GIS is a tool. It's not necessarily a method or a science that I'm teaching you. In my experience, I've worked in utilities, mining, I did research for the University of Louisville, And on all those jobs, it's really a definition of something that already exists. The data was already there. They had a certain job that they needed to get done, whether it be putting new poles up or replacing old lines for the utility company, making maps and planning for a new mine where I work right now, or when I did research and updating hazard mitigation information from the University of Louisville. All that stuff was there already, but to take the data and try to make a map out of it to help explain what you're trying to do or help show the guys out in the field what they needed to do, or to always have this information ready in case there were power outages or something happened with the mine, or to make sure we plan ahead and have the best and most accurate information available at all times. That's what you use geographic information systems for. And a lot of people get hung up on the fact that, oh, it's its own science and it's this new thing and we don't know where to put it. It freaks us out, but it's really just a tool to help you accomplish your goal, and you can apply it to pretty much anything. So that's what the class is going to mostly be about, is teaching you to use Esri software, but the principles of how to manipulate data and how to create a good cartographic product is what I want you to come away when you're done with this class. That's what I want you to come away with, is to take these principles and be able to apply it to Esri's technology, to Carlson's technology, to AutoCAD's technology, and to learn these basic principles to help you do whatever you got to do in whatever field that you decide to apply to. So look for the next video, which will explain your second week assignment, and you shouldn't have to worry about that. But the first week, just take your syllabus quiz if you're still looking at this early, and then make sure you get your software installed, and then I'll make sure to post a second video and we'll get started on our exercises.